Hey guys, and welcome to the Clark International Speedway here in the Philippines. My name is Daniel Woodruff, a professional race car driver and TV host all the way from Malaysia. I've joined the journey of the Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship, and we're here for the second leg. And actually, as you can see behind me, you can hear as well, we're just about to start the first race of the second event for the Formula 4 SEA. We've got 6 races on offer this weekend. Today is Saturday. We've had some practice sessions yesterday on the Friday. And these drivers had just had their qualifying session, so they're all going out in order of fastest laps to get ready for the first race. So they're just finishing their warm-up lap, and I'll go through the order of the drivers that we have today. Starting on pole position, we have Ben Grimes of the Philippines. So we have a Filipino racing on a Filipino track starting on pole. Extremely fantastic. I'm sure there'll be a lot of home fans here are going to be wishing that he finishes in P1 as well. In second place, we actually have Daniel Chow all the way from Shanghai in China. In third, we have Kane Shepherd of Thailand. In fourth, we've got Sam Grimes, the younger Grimes brother, also from the Philippines. One of the only 2 Filipinos flying the Filipino flag here on their home track. In fifth, we've got Adam Khalid of Malaysia. In sixth, we also have another Malaysian, Timothy Yeo. In seventh, we have Luke Thompson of Ireland. And in eighth, we have Shivin Sirinarinthorn all the way from Thailand. So all these drivers, all very, very young, up-and-coming talents. I'm sure they're all very nervous, all very excited to prove their worth, to drive all their hearts out. We have a 13-lap race, and as we can see, the drivers are coming around the last corner now. You can see Ben Grimes accelerating and braking very, very hard to warm up his tires as they all get onto the starting grid. They're all going to be focusing as hard as they can to get the best start possible. We've got a very, very long straight here, so if you don't get a good start, you're going to be overtaken by a lot of people even before you reach turn 1. So they're all lining up, the red lights will go on, and when they go off, they're going to jet off, and I'm sure we're going to have an extremely great race. We're going to change camera angles for you in a second, and I'll continue the commentary. And yeah, enjoy the race, guys. Excellent start from Ben Grimes. Now we're going to be hoping for a clean start. All the cars jumbled together, but it's Ben Grimes who does have the best start, starting from pole position. And he goes clean into turn 1. As they make the approach into turn 2, all the cars go single file. As they come around turn 3, no accidents, we have a clean start. That's always good to see in Junior Series. To finish the race in first you must finish. Let's see who's coming round. As they approach the next hairpin, coming into turn 6, it's Ben Grimes in the lead and Daniel Chow in second. In third, we still have Kane Shepherd. Oh no, Kane Shepherd's fallen down to 4th. Oh, and we have someone who's spun. We have a spin. Will he be able to continue? It looks like he's stuck in the grass. As all the drivers come up into the middle straight of the track as they approach turn 9. It's still Ben Grimes of the Philippines in the lead. Daniel Chow following very closely behind. Sam Grimes in third, holding off Kane Shepherd in 4th. As the drivers make an approach to the second half of the track. Ben Grimes keeping his head down, keeping his cool. Adam Khalid in third. Adam Khalid in Malaysia with a fantastic start. As the drivers get into the infield section, it's a very, very complex set of corners. A very, very tight chicane. Not a normal chicane you'd find on a racetrack, as there's more than one. You've got the left, then the right, and then another left. Very, very tight sequence of corners for these cars. The track only 14 meters wide. As the drivers make their approach through the last corner, turn 18, flat out. Still Ben Grimes who leads. Timothy Yeo in 5th. Timothy Yeo of Malaysia, of course. Not having driven a Formula car in almost 5 years, he's making a good comeback. Timothy Yeo having driven Porsche Carrera Cup cars in the last few months this year. So it's a huge difference seeing him move from a GT car all the way into a single-seater. Very, very different type of driving. Of course, Timothy Yeo has also driven on this track before in 2011 in go-karts, so very, very different. But continuing as the drivers approach turn 6, you can see the yellow flags waving by the marshals. Of course, due to one of the cars spinning out, you can see the driver is all okay as he makes his way towards the marshal post. Always good to see that the driver's okay. Drivers making their way through turn 8. Daniel Chow of China still has his nose cone right on the tail of Ben Grimes of the Philippines. You can see him checking his mirrors. He's going to want to keep his eyes on the road ahead of him and not behind him, so as to keep putting in the fastest laps and building up as much of a gap as possible. But Daniel Chow, the event winner of the first round of the Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship this year, he put in an absolutely dominant performance in Sepang in Malaysia, of course in front of that Formula 1 crowd. He had the expectations of pole position here, but it wasn't enough to deter home favorite Ben Grimes. Ben Grimes, who did start in pole position, and he's still in P1 as he makes his way through the chicane sections. Turn 16, turn 17. It's very important to get a good exit out of turn 17 early on the power, because after turn 17, you are flat out on the throttle. You do not stop lifting the throttle up until turn 1. And of course, turn 1 from the last corner is almost a kilometer away in distance. A huge, huge, huge long straight. So if you were to make a mistake out of the last corner, that really compromises your top speed at the end of the straight. So rounding out the top 4, we have Ben Grimes of the Philippines in first. Daniel Chow of Shanghai, China, following very closely behind him in second. In third, we got Malaysia's Adam Khalid, who put in an excellent first lap, ending in P3, and close behind him is Kane Shepherd of Thailand in P4. Now these two front pack pairs have pulled away from the rest of the pack. They're just going to be putting in consistent lap times to make sure that they can pull away from the drivers behind them. There's a small gap opening between Adam Khalid and Kane Shepherd, between P3 and P4, but that gap still remains. Very tiny gap between Daniel Chow and Ben Grimes, fighting for P1 and P2. Of course, this track can be quite bumpy in some areas. They've been putting in a lot of work, and it's seen great improvements, but it's still a very technical track to overtake on. So it'll be very interesting to see where Daniel Chow will make his move, or wherever he sees his opportunity. So drivers make their way past turn 13, a very mid-speed corner. Drivers approaching in third gear and actually dropping down to second in the middle of the corner. Very tight, very long. And that means it just makes it even harder for the drivers to overtake. As we have our front two coming out of the last corner, looks like Ben Grimes was able to get on the power very well out of the last corner. Managing to maintain, maybe even pull even a bit of a gap to Daniel Chow as he approaches the first corner. The first corner here, well, the first series of corners actually, very complex. As you can see, the drivers approach at a very high speed. They're doing approximately 200 kilometers per hour in 6th gear, and they still accelerate, they still turn in while accelerating for that corner. And then they dab on the brakes. They downshift 3 times into 3rd gear, and they dab on the throttle a little bit more as they downshift into 2nd for turn 3. The drivers, of course, have had a full day of practice yesterday. They had the Friday of practice sessions to get to grips with both the cars and with this technical track, as well as the Filipino heat. I know a lot of the drivers were struggling with the Filipino heat. And with 13 laps on offer this race, the fittest drivers will really show their worth, as the drivers who maybe struggle a bit more with their fitness will start to dwindle in terms of lap time and drop off a little bit. But fitness definitely isn't a factor for China's Daniel Chow, or for the Philippines with Ben Grimes, as the front two seem to be putting in extremely similar lap times. They're keeping on pace with each other as they approach turn 13 now. Going up the gears into 3rd gear as they approach turn 14 now. A slight lift on the throttle, and as they approach the chicanes of 14, 15, and 16, they just have to get on the brakes slightly downshift into second and to really carry that speed. With corners as tight as this, especially in chicanes, it really is all down to the driver to make that difference in lap time. They have to really carry that corner speed. As Ben Grimes and Daniel Chow approach turn 18, flat out, absolutely flat out. There is just no giving up with Daniel Chow or from Kane Shepherd, both fighting for first and third respectively. So the starting position in race 1 is actually determined by the fastest lap in qualifying. But because we have 6 races on offer this weekend, we have race 2 later this afternoon, and the starting grid for that race is actually determined by the fastest lap in race 1. So for the drivers who may not be fighting for a podium position, it's definitely important for them to try and find a clear piece of track to really focus, maintain their tire grip, and to really make sure that they pump out the fastest possible lap times. Of course, because the fastest possible lap times that you can get in this will determine your starting position in the second race. So drivers who aren't even going for the win can still start on pole position in the next race. It's a very, very long weekend for these drivers. 6 races, 30 races on offer in this entire championship. All these drivers from around the world, drivers from Malaysia, Thailand, the Philippines, Ireland, all traveling here to Clark in the Philippines to prove that they are Southeast Asia's next best junior single-seater driver. Of course, the Philippines isn't the only stop for them on this calendar. We had our first event leg in Malaysia supporting the Formula One. We're here now this weekend in Clark International Speedway in the Philippines. After this, we head to Sentul International Circuit in Indonesia, after which we head to Thailand, all the way in Buriram United International Circuit, and then we return back to Malaysia for the last round. As we've seen in previous years, the championship usually does come down to the final round. Last year, we actually saw a different winner for every single event, which just goes to show that with a one-make championship, of course, all these drivers are in identical machinery, identical cars, tires, and setups. It's all down to the driver to make that difference. If a driver wins here, it usually is because he is the best of the lot. And right now, that means it's Ben Grimes leading the pack. He really is the best of the lot. Ooh, he seems to have missed the apex slightly going into turn 6. Maybe the pressure of Daniel Chow in second is getting to him. But where will Daniel Chow make that move? Ben Grimes still maintaining the lead as he comes out of turn 8. He needs to get a really, really good exit out of here because it's a very, very long straight all the way down to turn 11. As you can see, Daniel Chow right on his tail. At these high speeds, the slipstream will definitely work in their favor. The slipstream, of course, meaning the aerodynamic effect caused by drafting behind somebody. The front car breaks through the air, meaning that there's less drag on you behind, which usually means that you can pick up a higher speed. As these cars negotiate the technical turn 13, Ben Grimes still maintaining that gap even after a slight mistake going into turn 6. Further down the order, you can see Malaysia's Timothy Yeo going around turn 13, followed by Thailand's Shivin. Shivin in putting in a great effort. He's learned a lot so far this season. Shivin, of course, getting his first Formula Car experience in Malaysia at the Malaysian Grand Prix, the Formula One support race. And he's here fighting with his rivals, improving lots due to the open data concept of the Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship, of course, fueled by the Petron Corporation. And what this open data concept means is that all the data is open between the drivers. So when a driver is the fastest on track, all the drivers can come back into the pit lanes, into the pits, download the data, the information from the cars, and they can actually see where the other drivers are faster or slower than them. From there, our world-class driver coaches in the paddock are able to coach them and teach them how to make those changes and improve them and convert them into faster lap times. This can come in the form of braking later or braking earlier, getting on the power slightly better, or changing the racing line. All these cars have top-notch, top-tech cameras at the very top, which means that after each race, after each session, the driver is able to look over the session, look over their laps with the driver coaches, and see what changes they need to make. Although the gap is still very small between Ben and Daniel Chow, their own pack is making an even bigger gap to third and fourth place. In third, we have Malaysia's Adam Khalid. And he's pushing. You can see his car just twitching a little bit sideways. The Malaysian really trying to pull a gap to Thailand's Kane Shepherd in fourth. Really piling on the pressure. As we see a fight with Shivan still edging out into turn 13. We have a little bit of a peak going into the chicane. He tries to make a move, doesn't quite cut it. These fantastic sounding cars making their way down the front straight, going up the gears, all the way up, fourth, fifth, up to sixth gear. You can hear them upshifting. And these F4 cars are powered by 2-liter 4-cylinder Renault engines producing 160 brake horsepower. You see there's battles all the way through the order. The front pack, all the way down to the back. Luke Thompson piling on the pressure to Shivan. Can he make a move into turn 3? No, he can't, but he just peaks. And I'm sure Shivan can see that in his rear view mirror. He's gonna try not to let that pressure get to him. As our front pair make their way out of turn 8. Ben Grimes opening up a little bit of a gap. Ben being able to just be that tad bit more consistent. Daniel really catching up on the brakes, but is he able to maintain it as he powers out of the corner? As they come through turn 12. They stay in second gear, they just hit the limiter and they get on the power. Up the gears to third as they approach turn 13. Downshift into second in the middle of the corner. Hard on the power, up to third. You can hear that bang when they upshift. Slight lift of the throttle as they approach turn 14, as they enter the chicane. Wonderful sounds produced by these wonderful cars. The perfect stepping stone for these young junior drivers as they really just begin their career on their path to Formula One. Many of these drivers just making their first steps out of go-karting. Go-karting, of course, the very first step in any race car driver's career. And we have Kane Shepherd going really, really wide out of the last corner. Trying to go too wide in the last corner with Adam Khalid. That was never going to work. And that's really compromised the gap that he had right behind Adam Khalid. That long straight not doing him any good. Kane Shepherd of Thailand in his yellow car really having to work hard to make up that gap. Incredible close racing. As I was saying previously, go-karting is where a lot of drivers start their careers, and Formula 4 is the most cost-effective platform for them to transition from go-karts, which are of course raced on smaller tracks, onto bigger car tracks like this. Formula 4 cars, very similar to Formula 1 cars. You have the paddle shift system on the steering wheel, steering wheel that's very similar to Formula 1 steering wheels in a lot of ways. Maybe a few less buttons, a few less functionalities, but in essence it's the same. And it's the kind of controls that teach these drivers the basics as they progress up to Formula 3, up to Formula 2, and hopefully up into Formula 1 one day. Here are the drivers changing through the gears using the paddle shift system on the steering wheel. On the steering wheels actually there's 2 paddles, and on the right side when they pull it, it goes up the gears, and on the left side when they pull it, it goes down the gears. Malaysia's Timothy O negotiating turn 13 in a pack of his own. where all the other drivers seem to be in their own battles. Daniel Chow just twitching slightly on the rear coming out of the last corner. Last corner, of course, is completely flat out, which means it's very important for these drivers to be at their peak levels of concentration. One wrong step at full throttle around this tight last corner, and something could go wrong. Looks like Kane Shepherd of Thailand has made up that gap that he lost after his mistake on the last corner 2 laps ago. He's right back on the tail of Adam Khalid from Malaysia. Adam Khalid making his debut this season in the Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship. He wasn't able to attend the first event in Malaysia, so he's going to really want to get that podium position. Of course, he's still in 3rd place, but as he looks into his rear view mirrors, he can see that Kane Shepherd of Thailand is right on his tail. Adam Khalid going a little bit wide at the exit of the turn 8 hairpin. But who's going to have the better exit? Kane Shepherd going to be benefiting from the slipstream. But as we look further up the pack into 1st and 2nd places, it's still Ben Grimes who controls the pace. Daniel Chow, you can see, possibly with a little bit more pace than Ben Grimes, but just can't seem to find a proper place to overtake. As I mentioned before, the Clark International Speedway, a very, very technical circuit, a driver's circuit. You have to be very, very talented to be on the front row here. But that also means it makes it even more difficult for you to overtake. A lot of tight and twisty turns, 14 meters wide this circuit, which means there's not a lot of room for error. Ben Grimes coming out of the last corner. You can see his helmet, he's just looking straight. He's not giving Daniel Chow the light of day. Daniel Chow, of course, the Event 1 champion. Could we see a Filipino take away the Event 2 overall championship? It may be too late to say, but Ben Grimes is definitely off to a great start. So with 6 events in the Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship, going to 6 different destinations, that also means that we have 6 different champions. We have a different champion for each event. 6 races per event. Each race there are points that are calculated and accumulated. And as we'll show you with the podium ceremony after this, there are also a bunch of trophies to be collected, which I'm sure all these drivers are gunning for. These young talents really duking it out to prove their worth. This really is the first step to Formula 1. And if you can impress your peers and impress the global motorsports world with your performances in this championship, who knows what opportunities may arise. Last year we already saw our front runners, especially Fane Kahia from all the way from New Zealand. He actually came to all the races all the way from New Zealand because this was the best next step for him in his motorsports career. Due to his outstanding performance that season, just missing out the championship by a few points, finishing in 2nd, he was awarded a Lamborghini test drive all the way in Italy with a factory team. And I know through experience and speaking to a lot of these drivers, an opportunity like that would be a dream come true for these young drivers. Ben Grimes really pulling a gap. A couple more laps to go. This is the first we've seen of Ben Grimes really commanding a lead over Daniel Chow of China. Either Daniel Chow is just getting a bit tired or losing his pace, or he's trying to build a bit of a gap so he gets some clean air. He doesn't get the dirty air behind Ben Grimes, and it means that he can put in the fastest lap. Now, why is that fastest lap important? Well, as I mentioned earlier, the fastest lap in this race, race 1, will determine your starting position in race 2. Race 2, of course, happening later this afternoon, which you guys can tune into on this live stream as well. So it's an incredibly important compromise between track position. Of course, you want to get that podium spot, but you also want to have that bit of clean air to allow you to get the fastest lap time. These Formula 4 cars, as you can see on camera, they have wings around them. They've got wings at the front, wings at the back. Their entire design is to generate aerodynamic downforce. That means more grip the faster they go. What that also means is that the closer you get to a driver in front of you, the dirtier, the more turbulent the air is. And that means that the aerodynamic effect of your car becomes less efficient. In essence, in layman's terms, you get less grip the closer you are to the driver in front. So Daniel Chow, although he's lost a bit of a gap to the front runner, Ben Grimes, it also means that he has cleaner air to give his car more grip, which means that he can pump out faster lap times. Great battles up and down the field. As you see, 8th and 9th position. Approaching turn 13 now. We have Shivin of Thailand, P7, and Luke Thompson of Ireland right on his tail in P8. Really trying to work out where he can make that move. Trying to pressure Shivin into a mistake. As we see, Kane Shepherd and Adam Khalid too wide on the main straight. Kane Shepherd of the yellow car all the way on the inside. This 1 kilometer straight is so long, you can see that Kane Shepherd actually managed to overtake him right before the first corner. With only a few laps to go, that is not what Adam Khalid of Malaysia wanted. He definitely wanted to go defensive. There was not much he can do on this long straight. That's what I was talking about before. If you don't get a good enough exit out of the last corner, you just won't get a good enough top speed by the end of the main straight. And that's worked entirely in Kane Shepherd's favor. Kane Shepherd coming all the way from Thailand here. Kane Shepherd really demonstrating all of his years of racing experience. This boy of a mixed Thai and English heritage, spending most of his racing career racing in go-karts in Asia, where he's progressed through the ranks, starting in the Cadet Championship, which is for the under-12s, into the Junior Championship, where he really started to flourish into the racing driver that he is today, putting in multiple wins. If I'm not mistaken, he just came back from the Karting World Finals. Kane really showing off the racecraft that he learned at these global racing events here at the competitive Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship, fueled by the Petron Corporation. Now don't forget, guys, for those of you listening to the live stream, it's not too late for you guys to actually come to the track and watch the race yourself. As we see, Ben Grimes take the checkered flag, Daniel Chow in second, Ben Grimes of the Philippines punching the air in pure delight. That is his first race win in Formula Cars. That was a lights to flag finish, a dream come true, his first pole position, with Kane Shepherd coming in P3 and Malaysia's Adam Khalid in P4. Adam Khalid will be frustrated with himself because it was only 2 laps before the end where he lost his podium position. Through the last corner in P5, we have Malaysia's Timothy Yeo. P6, and in P7 we have Shivin and Luke Thompson. Fantastic race by these young guns. Of course, the first of 6 races this weekend, and as I was mentioning, it's not too late for you guys listening to this live stream to come to the track and check it out yourselves. There are no admission fees. You come straight in and check out the grandstands. Come support the drivers. Come support the Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship, partnered with Petron, Blaze Racing. Fantastic performance by these young drivers. Of course, these drivers are the future of Southeast Asian motorsports, of Asian motorsports even. And I'm sure that we'll see these names progress through the ranks in years to come. As the drivers start their cool-down lap, trying to conserve their tires. Remember, they've got 2 more races on this set. They have to do race 2 and race 3 on these set of tires as well. So they're gonna want to slow down as they come into the pits, let everything cool down, let their bodies cool down, but to make sure that they're, more importantly, that their tires don't wear out. You see the Filipino heat getting to some of these drivers. I'm sure some of them are very tired after racing their hearts out. But we still have 1 race to go this afternoon. So we look up to the sky as well. dark clouds approaching. Who knows? There may be a wet race.
Okay, next slide. We have now the field regulated project meeting for the time plan. Field regulated project meeting. Field meeting. Medyo magkuha ng mga project. Medyo na lang. After the field meeting project meeting, we will give the wait time.
As you can see behind me, as you can hear, you probably can't see, the drivers are making their way into the pit lane, having finished race 1 of event 2 of the Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship here at the Clark International Speedway. A very exciting race with a pole to flag, finish. Sorry, very, very loud as the drivers get on the pit lane speed limiter. Filipino Ben Grimes starting on pole position and finishing all the way in first place every single lap. And stay tuned to this live stream. We have race 2 coming on later this afternoon, and we're going to head down to the podium. See you guys there. Cool.
I need the recording.
Are you guys coming down as well? Are you guys going to the podium?
No, for the last race.
The last race. Okay, I need to go. So I'll see you guys later.
Okay.
I'm gonna go to the podium.
Bababa yung host natin, men, ha? Tara ko muna tong wireless, ha? Oh, dun sa baba.